During the holiday season, my boyfriend Tom booked an overseas vacation package. As soon as the plane landed, he coaxed me onto a bus. The bus drove for 2 days and 2 nights. Watching the increasingly familiar route, I started trembling all over. This was the remote family compound I had escaped from 4 years ago. Sensing my distress, Tom finally dropped the act. His face contorted as he said he was going to sell me to the illegal gang hideout. And the boss he spoke of was the head of that facility, my own brother. I had spent 20 years plotting my fake death to escape him, only to be tricked back 4 years later by Tom. Seeing me tremble, Tom smiled gently. "Amanda," he said, "didn't you say you loved me very much? I owe a huge gambling debt. Will you help me out?" Thinking of what would happen to him if he fell into Jack's hands, even my voice started to shake. "Please," I pleaded, my voice trembling. "Just send me back quickly. If you need money, I can give it to you. I'll work part-time and earn money to support you for the rest of my life." Tom's face changed. He snarled, "Do you think I can wait that long? If I don't pay them back in 3 days, they'll kill me. You useless piece of trash, I supported you for 2 years. It's time to pay me back, principal and interest." When I heard him call me trash, I trembled even more violently. Before, one of Jack's assistants had muttered that I was useless, someone who couldn't even kill an ant. Jack had him buried alive and covered in honey to attract ants. That man died, devoured by ants. If Jack heard Tom call me trash like that, what would he do to him? Fear crept into my heart as I looked at the man I had loved for 2 years. Tears finally streamed down my face, unchecked. "Didn't you say you wanted to build a home with me? You said I was your most loved F. Emily." Tom's warm hand stroked my face. But the words he spoke were chillingly cold. "That's right," he said. "Aren't families supposed to help each other out? Amanda, help me." I bit my lip hard and shook my head frantically. A flicker of pity crossed Tom's eyes. "You're most heartbreakingly beautiful when you cry, Amanda, did you know that? You were the prettiest of all my girlfriends, and the most naive. If I weren't so desperate for money, I really wouldn't have wanted to sell you." His gaze suddenly turned vicious. "You're mine. I can't stand the thought of other men doing that to you." He lunged at me in the bus, pulling out a rope and tying my hands behind my back. Then, he pulled a dagger from his jacket and traced it across my face. "Amanda, you wouldn't want to be defiled, would you? Let me help you out, okay?" The dagger gleamed coldly, cutting a fiery line of pain across my face. "No!" I screamed in despair. Jack's favorite thing was this face. When I was a child, I knocked over boiling water that a staff member hadn't yet cooled, and my face was scalded. When he learned I might be scarred, Jack had that staff member's hands chopped off and thrown into an alligator pit. He threatened the Dr. Smith, demanding he heal my face completely, or he'd peel off the Dr. Smith's own skin. Jack said my face looked exactly like our deceased mother's, and he would never allow it to be harmed. Tom had cut my face. If Jack found out, I couldn't bear to think any further, ignoring the searing pain on my face. "Please," I begged. "My face can't be ruined." Tom laughed. "I already asked Mike. He said the women at the facility don't need to be pretty, as long as their bodies are functional." "Mike? Could it be the new guy, Bow, who arrived at the facility 4 years ago?" Before I could react, Tom slashed my face again with the knife. The pain was so intense I couldn't speak. Blood ran into my eyes, blurring my vision red. "I know Mike," I chalk it out. "Will you take me to him? If Bow saw me, he would surely send me back." Tom froze, and the knife in his hand cut even deeper. "You bitch, you really didn't love me after all. You were just trying to get close to Mike? I'll ruin this face of yours. Let's see how you try to seduce other men now." I screamed in pain until I finally passed out. When I woke up again, I found myself dumped at the entrance of the facility. The man talking to Tom beside me was none other than Bow. "Mike!" I croaked, calling out his name with a raw throat. Mike looked surprised, turning to gaze at me on the ground. "How does she know my name?" Tom's face paled. He stepped forward and stomped hard on my mouth. "She might have overheard a phone call in the bus earlier," he stammered. "Don't worry, boss, it doesn't matter that she knows now." Mike mused for a moment, putting a cigarette in his mouth. "Really? I suppose you wouldn't dare try anything funny. How many is this you brought in?" Tom ground his foot into my mouth a few more times before scurrying over to light Mike's cigarette. "The 7th, he said. "Don't worry, boss, I know the rules. This girl is an orphan, no family or connections. Her official records only list her. And she was a virgin when she was with me." Mike squatted down, blew a smoke ring into my face, and examined me closely. A flicker of hope reignited in me. He knew me. As soon as he recognized me, he'd make Tom take me back quickly. After all, if Jack found out it was his own assistants who had kidnapped me, they'd all be dead. TSK, how did you mess up her face like this? It's hideous, Mike said with disgust, getting up and looking away. My heart sank. He didn't recognize me. Had Tom really disfigured my face this badly? The thought filled me with sorrow. I wanted to cry out loud, but my throat felt choked, as if stuffed with cotton. She was too restless, Tom said. She tried to use her looks to escape, so I ruined her face. It doesn't really matter, does it? Saying this, Tom crouched down and whispered in my ear with a low chuckle, see? Give up on trying to seduce Mike. He said you're ugly. Gathering all my strength, I forced a few words through clenched teeth. You, die. Mike's eyebrows shot up. He kicked Tom aside and crouched in front of me, smiling. This girl, did she just curse us to die? Seeing his sinister smile, I shook my head in terror. No. That wasn't what I meant. I wanted to say, take me away quickly. Otherwise, you will die. Ah. Mike pried open my mouth and pressed the burning tip of his cigarette inside. Excruciating pain shot through my tongue. The smell of burning flesh filled the air, accompanied by my screams. You ugly hag, daring to threaten us even when you're about to die. Tooey. Mike spat a glob of thick phlegm onto my face. Tom picked up a metal bar nearby and jabbed it violently into my mouth. You dead bitch, how dare you offend Mike? I'll make you scream. My mouth bled from the jabbing, the rough metal tearing into my throat. At that moment, I felt like I was suffocating. Tears streamed down my face like a waterfall. Was I going to die here? Alright, that's enough of a lesson. If you kill her, we won't get paid, Mike said, stopping him. Tom quickly threw down the bloody metal bar. Okay, Mike. Should we go inside and sign the contract and get the money now? Two burly men grabbed me and dragged me towards the facility. Just then, a car drove up, coming towards us. It was my brother's car. I struggled wildly, throwing myself with all my might towards the wheels of the car. The car stopped, and my brother opened the back door and stepped out. Looking at me on the ground, his brows furrowed. Jack, it's me. I'm your sister. I struggled to lift my head and looked at him, silently pleading for help. Mike grabbed me and slapped my face hard. Damn little bitch, how dare you bump into the boss? The slap made my vision go black. And I spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, dirtying Jack's leather shoes. Mike was horrified. He dropped to his knees and started wiping Jack's leather shoes. I'm so sorry, boss. This new little bitch is causing trouble. I'll get it clean for you right away. Seeing this, Tom also quickly knelt down to help wipe the shoes. Jack narrowed his eyes, looking at me lying nearby. Oh, the new delivery? Yes, this little bitch was being difficult. To avoid trouble, we ruined her face. She even cursed us to die just now. Mike answered cautiously. Jack's interest was piqued. Heh, first time someone has dared to talk big here. Is she a college student? Yes, just graduated this year, and she was an excellent student. Tom jumped in. Jack looked thoughtful, glancing at me before sighing. If Amanda were still alive, she'd be graduating from college around now too. Hearing Jack say my name, I thrashed and wailed frantically. Jack, it's me. I'm Amanda. Damn it, little bitch, hold still. Mike lifted his foot and kicked me hard, right in the face. The wounds on my face tore open again, bleeding profusely. My mouth and tongue were already mangled. I couldn't speak a word, only cry out in pain. Huh? Jack paused, crouching down to examine me closely. Filled with frantic hope, I tried to open my mouth to call out to him, but my throat tickled, and I coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. It splattered right onto Jack's face. Mike and Tom were instantly horrified. One quickly pulled out a tissue to wipe the blood from Jack's face, while the other dragged me further inside. Seeing the iron barrel filled with sewage water in the facility, Mike lifted me up. The next second, he shoved me down hard into the barrel. Filthy water immediately rushed into my nose and mouth. A feeling of suffocation washed over me, and my lungs burned with pain. Just when I thought I was about to die, Mike grabbed my hair and hauled me out of the water. Little bitch, how many lives? Do you think you have to disrespect the boss? Today, I'll kill you to apologize to the boss. I gasped for a few seconds before being shoved back into the water again. This was repeated several times, until I was choking and couldn't make any sound at all. Mike threw me onto the ground and scurried over to Jack, bowing repeatedly. Boss, since that little bitch offended you, she's useless alive. How should we deal with her? How about we pull out all her fingernails first, and then give her torture involving forcing a thick, choking liquid down her throat? My heart froze. Torture involving forcing a thick, choking liquid down her throat. I had seen them use this kind of torture on other girls before. I never expected it would be my turn today. Perhaps it's for the best. Jack, you've committed so many sins. If they're visited upon me, it's not unfair. Thinking this, I calmed myself. Jack wiped the blood from his face, glaring fiercely at me, but then he froze. At that moment, I slowly closed my eyes, awaiting the arrival of death. Thinking I was about to see my parents, I felt a strange sense of joy. Is she smiling? Jack's hesitant voice reached my ears. What the hell? This bitch actually has the nerve to smile. Mike exclaimed in disbelief, grabbing my hair and lifting my face. The blood and sewage water were washed from my face. When Jack saw my face clearly, he looked shocked. Why are there so many wounds on her face? At that moment, looking at the reflection in Jack's eyes, I saw my own face covered in scars. Thin, winding scars, like ugly earthworms, covered my entire face. It looked both horrifying and disgusting. It was laughable that I thought Jack would recognize me. In this monstrous state, I barely recognized myself. Her boyfriend did it on the way here, Mike quickly answered. He said she was being difficult and trying to seduce the driver Dave to escape. Tom also nodded in agreement. Yes, this bitch looked so slutty. If we left her face like that, something would happen sooner or later. Jack nodded. Alright. It's just a shame, she could have been sent to the underworld-related gambling den as a dealer. That would have made a lot more money than this operation. A look of regret crossed Tom's face. It's all my fault. Next time I'll know better, and specifically target the ones who are pretty and slutty. Hearing him say this, Mike also sighed nearby. Yeah, the ones you brought before weren't great. We finally got a fresh-looking one, and you ruined her. You said she looked slutty. What kind of slutty was it? Let me see. Mike urged Tom, asking him for photos. Tom smiled wryly. My phone was confiscated just now, I can't show you. Then, his eyes lit up, and he patted his chest. Her ID card and degree certificate are still on me, I can show you those. Mike immediately became interested and urged him to take them out quickly. Tom pulled out all my documents, and Mike eagerly leaned in to look. TSK, very nice. This girl has an innocent face, but her breasts are so big they're enticing. Really slutty. You've got good taste, kid. This kind is perfect for working in the operation. At that moment, Jack, who had just finished washing his face, came over with a towel. Amanda? He read the name on the document, then looked up. Mike quickly tried to flatter him. How could this little bitch compare to you, boss? You're a dragon in the sky. What's that saying? How can a sparrow know the ambition of a swan? Jack laughed, tossing the towel onto Mike's face. Get out of here, Jack chuckled. You dropped out of high school and you're quoting poetry now, haha. Mike took the towel off his face and laughed along. Aren't I just influenced by you, boss? You're one of the few in the entire compound who studied abroad. I still remember what you used to teach Miss, that to succeed, you have to study hard. Hearing him mention my name, Jack's expression darkened. He took my bachelor's degree certificate from Tom's hand. Running his fingers over the embossed gold lettering, Jack sighed. If Amanda were still alive, she'd be graduating from college this year, at 22. Saying this, he opened my degree certificate. The next second, Jack stared at the photo on the certificate, and his face changed dramatically. Amanda? He whispered my name, his voice trembling, then looked up at Mike and Tom. Yes, Tom said. This little bitch told me when she was with me that she was an orphan and made up her own name. Jack froze. An orphan? That's right. Tom said carefully. She said she was like a lone bird separated from its group, flying towards the future alone. Mike laughed when he heard this. That's hilarious. A lone goose separated from its flock usually ends up dead. That name really suits her. Jack's fingertips, clutching my degree certificate, turned white, as if he were trying to stare a hole through it. Tom noticed Jack's expression was wrong and nudged Mike. Mike, let's hurry and do the paperwork. I have to pay someone back tomorrow. Mike gave him a look, forced a smile, and asked Jack, Boss, should I take them to complete the transfer paperwork first? Jack didn't respond, his face dark. Instead, he personally helped me up from the ground. Then, he carefully reached out and touched my face. I flinched away in pain, and Jack's hand froze in midair. Seeing this, Mike flew into a rage and cursed at me. Little bitch, it's an honor for the boss to touch you. Why the hell are you flinching? He rolled up his sleeves and lunged towards me. The next second, Jack slapped him, stunning him. Did I tell you to lay a hand on her? Mike covered his face and said meekly, Boss, I was wrong. Jack turned and pulled me towards him forcefully. Ignoring my struggles, he pulled open the collar of my clothes. A flicker of understanding crossed Mike's eyes, and he smiled ingratiatingly. Boss, so that's what you wa. Ted. This girl does have a good figure, but isn't it inconvenient to do that here in the compound? Jack stared at the tattoo on my chest, silent for a long moment. Seeing this, Tom quickly pulled Mike aside and whispered, does the boss have a fetish for this? How can he touch her when she's that ugly? He was starting to get anxious. His pathetic male ego was flaring up. After all, he had ruined my face precisely because he was afraid other men would want me. Mike slapped him on the head. Shut up. The boss is in charge of this entire operation. If you don't want to die, stay quiet. Tom glanced over, looking resentful. Seeing Jack's face was dark, he shrank back. Of course, of course. Since I've already sold her to you, she's the boss's property now. The boss can do whatever he wants. Jack gently wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. Of course, she's mine. Tom breathed a sigh of relief and motioned to Mike. Mike immediately understood and said to Jack with a smile, then, boss, if there's nothing else, I'll take him to complete the paperwork? Jack sneered. You sell my property back to me, and you expect to get paid? Tom's face went white. He grabbed Mike and whispered urgently, what does he mean? Does the boss mean he's backing out, taking the person but not paying? Mike also looked confused. No way, the boss never does things like this. He seemed to realize something and quickly asked Jack, boss, this guy has worked with us 7 or 8 times now, and he'll continue to cooperate in the future. Couldn't you just give him the money? Jack lifted me into his arms, holding me sideways, and said coolly, you should worry about yourselves first. If anything happens to her, you'll all die. Leaning against Jack's chest, the warmth gave me strength. Jack. I whispered his name. Jack's face was full of heartache, and he pressed a kiss to my forehead. Before he could speak, Tom rushed forward and screamed at me. You bit. You're in this state and you're still trying to seduce men? Boss, don't let her fool you. He raised his hand to grab me, but the driver Dave standing behind Jack grabbed his wrist. Jack is here, don't be afraid. Is he the one who did this to you? Jack was filled with pain, his teeth grinding together. Amanda, my Amanda. Hearing him call my name, I finally felt a sense of relief. Jack had recognized me. I sighed with relief, and my vision started to blur. Why were you so foolish? Leaving Jack and running off to be hurt like this. Jack told you long ago, in this world, no one will truly and sincerely love you except Jack. Why did you leave Jack? Jack's warm tears dripped onto my face. The wounds on my face stung fiercely, and I winced. I'm sorry. I mumbled an apology to him. At that moment, Mike finally realized what was happening. His face changed dramatically, and he collapsed onto the ground. Impossible, this is impossible. Boss, could she be Miss Amanda? This can't be. Miss Amanda died 4 years ago, didn't she? Boss, this little bitch must know some kind of sorcery to confuse you. Don't believe her. Jack lifted his foot and kicked him in the mouth. Say one more word, and I'll have your tongue cut out. Mike was kicked, his mouth full of blood, and covered it with his hand, eyes wide. The unique familial symbol on my sister's chest was tattooed by Mother herself. It's one of a kind, how could I be mistaken? Foolish sister, Jack said. Jack told you long ago, you're so beautiful, the outside world is full of bad people, they'll all hurt you. Why didn't you listen to me and stay obediently by Jack's side? Jack carried me inside, murmuring to himself as he walked. Listening to his words, Mike completely broke down but didn't dare make another sound. It wasn't until Jack carefully placed me on the bed in the office that Mike rushed forward and dropped to his knees in front of me. He slammed his head against the floor repeatedly, his forehead covered in blood. Jack waved a hand. Go find a Dr. Smith to look at her. Mike quickly got up, not even bothering to wipe the blood from his forehead, and hurried out. Tom, left standing there, looked completely panicked. Sensing Jack's murderous gaze, his legs turned to jelly and he knelt down. I'm sorry, boss. I didn't know she was your sister. Jack shushed him, motioning for him to be quiet. My sister seems to be sleeping. Don't wake her. Tom instantly fell silent. Jack gestured to the 2 bodyguard Johnsons beside him, and Tom was seized by them and dragged outside. He struggled in panic, wanting to beg for mercy but not daring to make a sound, because he knew that if he woke me, Jack would definitely cut out his tongue. Once outside, Tom knelt and kowtowed to Jack, trembling. I'm sorry, boss, I truly didn't know she was your sister. It was a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Jack used the tip of his shoe to lift Tom's face, examining him closely for a moment. He does look like those pretty boys from the TV shows, Jack mused. No wonder my sister liked you. He seemed lost in pleasant memories, murmuring to himself. My sister always loved watching those trashy romance shows growing up. She kept saying she wanted a handsome boyfriend like that. She didn't know that the prettier something is, the more deadly it is, just like her own face. Once she left my protection, she was so easily tricked and hurt. But she just wouldn't take my words to heart, sigh. Tell me, wasn't I right? He nudged Tom's face with his shoe again. Tom, terrified and crying, nodded furiously. Yes. She was too beautiful and too innocent, that's why she ended up with scum like me. Jack asked him, since she was with you, didn't you ever think about protecting her properly? Tom looked at Jack's bloodthirsty eyes and burst into tears. I did. For the past 2 years, I truly loved her, we were very happy together. But I was really trapped by circumstances. Boss, I owed a huge amount of money to others. Amanda didn't want me to get hurt, so she voluntarily came up with this idea to help me pay off my debts. Believe me, I love her very much. Seeing Jack lost in thought, a look of hope flashed across Tom's face. He continued, I really do love her. That's why when you were opening her clothes just now, boss, I desperately wanted to stop you. Just as he said this, Mike arrived back with the Dr. Smith. You stopped Jack's shit. Mike kicked him aside and said urgently to Jack, let the Dr. Smith look at Mrs. Injuries first. I was afraid she'd be in pain, so I had the Dr. Smith bring painkillers. Jack nodded in agreement. Mike breathed a sigh of relief and led the Dr. Smith into the room. At that moment, I was drifting in and out of consciousness, only feeling a cold instrument being slipped under my collar. Let me do it. Jack pushed the Dr. Smith's hand away and placed the stethoscope on my chest. The Dr. Smith listened carefully for a moment, then removed the stethoscope and said gravely, Miss is suffering from severe shock, compounded by exhaustion and fear. Her heart rate is very unstable. Additionally, her pulse is very weak, and her lips are cracked. It seems she hasn't had food or water in a long time. Hearing this, Jack became very anxious and quickly asked the Dr. Smith what to do. When he heard I needed to be put on a drip quickly to sustain me, he urged the Dr. Smith to hurry. My hand stung, and I felt the cold liquid medicine steadily flowing into my veins. Seeing me wince, Jack quickly ordered the driver Dave to find a hot water bottle and place it under the 4-tube. This way, Amanda won't be uncomfortable. She's always been sensitive to cold. My mouth was gently pried open, and the Dr. Smith used sweetened water to help me swallow painkillers. I clenched my jaw tightly in pain. This is terrible. Mrs. Mouth is completely ravaged, sigh. Listening to the Dr. Smith, Jack's face was filled with heartache and anxiety. Will she have any lasting after effects? The Dr. Smith shook his head. The external injuries on Mrs.'s body and the wounds in her mouth aren't serious. With careful care, they'll heal in a month or 2. But his expression was hesitant, as if weighing whether he should speak. But what? Speak quickly, Jack urged sharply. However, the wounds on Mrs.'s face were cut by a sharp object, and they are very deep. They had just managed to scab over, but then they were torn open and bled again by external force. It's likely they will leave scars even after healing. The Dr. Smith's voice trailed off. He knew how much Jack valued my face, and he began to tremble. I don't know who could be so cruel, determined to disfigure Miss like this. It's truly vicious. Jack's eyes turned blood red. Heal her. Use the best medicine you have. The Dr. Smith agreed repeatedly, then grabbed his medical kit and ran off, using the excuse that he needed to get medicine. Mike, who had heard the Dr. Smith's words, was now slumped on the ground, trembling all over. Who injured Amanda's face like this? Jack's cold voice pierced through the air, making the 2 men on the ground shake like sieves. It was him. It's all his fault. Tom shouted, pointing at Mike. Just now, outside the compound, he shoved a burning cigarette butt into Amanda's mouth. It burned her so badly she cried. He's responsible for the injuries in Amanda's mouth. Mike retorted in terror, you're full of shit. You were clearly using a metal bar just now. Before he could finish, Tom exploded and hit him in the mouth with the metal bar. It turned out Tom had been waiting for the right moment, using the metal bar nearby as a weapon. Mike's lips were swollen from the beating, and he clutched his mouth. Tom still wouldn't let go, jabbing him violently several more times until Mike collapsed. Said, covering his mouth. He threw down the bloody metal bar and threw himself at Jack's feet, crying. Outside the facility just now, he not only burned Amanda's mouth with a cigarette butt, but also used a metal bar to mangle her tongue and mouth. The evidence is still lying in the grass outside the facility. Jack nodded and gestured. The bodyguard Johnson behind him went to look for the metal bar. Soon, the metal bar, bloody and mangled at one end, was brought to Jack. He took it tenderly, touching the blood on it. Amanda, she was pampered from childhood. How could she endure such suffering? Mike was on his knees, trying to speak in his defense, but only managed to make gurgling sounds. "Ah, Bow," Jack said, his voice hard. "You've been with me for 4 years. Don't tell me you didn't recognize my sister." Jack ground his teeth as he questioned him. Mike shook his head frantically, tears flying from his eyes in terror. He knew clearly that Jack was blaming him for the knife wounds on my face as well. After all, just moments ago, to protect Tom, he had personally told Jack, to avoid trouble, we ruined her face. Mike was filled with regret, repeatedly pointing to the paper and pen on the table. He gestured that he could write it down, then clasped his hands together and begged Jack for a chance. Jack seemed to waver, but Tom picked up the bloody metal bar again and brutally smashed it down on Mike's hands. Ah! The sound of bones breaking echoed. Mike collapsed again, clutching his hands and rolling on the ground. Tom's eyes were filled with viciousness. He had no intention of letting him off the hook. Afraid Jack would stop him, he shouted, "It's all your fault. You harmed Amanda like this. I'm getting revenge for Amanda." He smashed Mike's hands again and again, turning them into a bloody pulp. Mike screamed in pain until he passed out. "Boss, Amanda's revenge isn't finished yet. His face should also be cut dozens of times to satisfy her." Tom's face was full of hatred, as if he truly felt terrible for me. Jack had been watching his performance with a half-smile the whole time. Seeing Jack pick up a cigarette, Tom dropped the metal bar and fawningly pulled out a lighter. Jack slapped him across the face. "Didn't you see my sister is injured? Who the hell told you to light my cigarette?" Tom bowed and scraped, apologizing profusely. "You're not wrong, he deserves to die," Jack said. Jack held the cigarette under his nose and sniffed it, then said to the bodyguard Johnson beside him, "Go, cut off his hands and feet, and put a few torture involving small explosives / charges in the mouth and his mouth." He liked putting cigarettes in other people's mouths, didn't he? Let him have a taste of that. Mike was dragged away like a rag doll. Tom breathed a sigh of relief and cautiously tried to appease Jack. "Boss, I now suspect that the person who kept setting me up and making me lose money is connected to Abao. That's why I collaborated with him so many times." Jack didn't confirm or deny, but nodded. "Makes sense. Abao used to manage casinos back in the country." A look of joy flashed across Tom's face. "Exactly. That's why he set me up to sell my own girlfriend. I just never expected this time it would be your sister. Boss, I failed to protect her. I listened to Mike's words and that's why this happened. Please, Boss and Amanda, forgive me." He crawled on his knees to my bedside, looking at my face as he repented. "Amanda, I know your dream was to marry me. I've already prepared a diamond ring to propose to you. When you get better, let's get married, okay? I'll stay with you forever, I'll love you no matter what you look like." Saying this, Tom pulled a diamond ring from his pocket. Jack stood up, looking slightly moved. "You really plan to propose to her?" Tom's face was full of sincerity. "Yes, I want to take care of her for the rest of her life." He thought that by saying this, Jack would let him go. But he was wrong. Jack lifted his leg and kicked him savagely in the face. "Damn it, what the hell are you to say something like that?" Tom was stunned by the kick. "Boss, Amanda and I truly loved each other." Jack laughed and snatched the diamond ring from his hand. "You? This pathetic little diamond? It's not worthy of my sister." At that moment, I slowly regained consciousness. Seeing the diamond ring in Jack's hand, painful memories made me cry out. Hearing me, Jack quickly rushed over and grabbed my hand. "Amanda, my good sister, are you feeling better?" I spoke with difficulty, taking the diamond ring from his hand. "Jack, I bought this myself while working part-time and earning money. He said he didn't have money for a diamond ring, so Jack became furious. "Damn it, he's a pretty boy who lives off women." He slapped Tom across the face, his handsome cheek swelling instantly. "Amanda, didn't you say we were inseparable? I was misled by Mike, will you forgive me? I love you, I do love you." Tom ignored the pain in his face and knelt in front of me, desperately begging for forgiveness. "Jack, my face, he ruined it." I told Jack the truth, speaking in broken whispers. He had always cherished my face above all else because it resembled our mother's. Jack had a pathological possessiveness over my face. Normally, even if a bee stung me, he'd take people to completely destroy the beehive. When he heard me say that Tom had ruined my face, Jack completely lost control. "I'll personally peel off your face and feed it to the dogs." He ordered his men to hold Tom down firmly, pulled a small knife from his body, and stabbed it towards Tom's face. Not a slash, but a direct stab, then peeling upwards inch by inch. Tom screamed in agony and immediately passed out. Jack seemed to think of something and stopped. That's too easy for him. He made a call and summoned his assistants. Didn't you guys come up with a new torture method for the born ones? An assistant answered, yes, boss, but we haven't tested it yet. We don't know if it will kill them. Boss, you know these women are valuable resources. It would be a significant loss if they died. Jack smiled coldly and pointed at Tom on the ground. Test it on him. It doesn't matter if he dies. Tom was lifted up like a dead pig. He woke up in terror. Where are you taking me? Amanda, save me. Just then, the bodyguard Johnson who had left came back and said to Jack, Boss, Abao is dead. Jack leaned down and took my hand. Sister, did you hear? Everyone who hurt you will die. Then, he ordered the bodyguard Johnson to describe in detail how Abao died. It has to make my sister feel better. And so, I heard how brutally Abao died. After being tortured, he was thrown into the iron barrel filled with sewage water. The sewage water stung him, making him scream in agony. They took the opportunity to pry open Abao's mouth. After a few torture involving small explosives / charges in the mouth detonated. They then lifted his body out again, awaiting Jack's final decision. Feed him to the dogs, Jack ordered. The bodyguard Johnson took the order and left. Listening to this, my chest tightened, and I threw up a mouthful of bitter liquid. Jack immediately became anxious and quickly called for the Dr. Smith to examine me. The Dr. Smith took my pulse, his face full of surprise and uncertainty. Miss, it seems she's pregnant. Tom's face lit up with joy. He quickly struggled and leaped down from the grip of the burly men. Dragging his still bleeding face, he crawled to my bedside. Amanda, did you hear? We're having a baby. Boss, Amanda is pregnant with my child. The baby can't be without a father. He thought this was his chance for survival. But he didn't know about Jack's long-standing pathological possessiveness over me. Jack had once said that because I had a face as beautiful as our mother's, he couldn't accept me being defiled by anyone. He was willing to raise me like a little princess for the rest of my life. Just now, Jack had exploded in rage when he heard Tom was going to propose to me. Now, hearing that I was pregnant with Tom's child, he became completely deranged. What did you say? You low-life piece of trash, you got my sister pregnant? Tom finally realized that Jack's mood was dangerously wrong. He desperately clutched my hand, trembling uncontrollably. Boss, Amanda said she wanted to build a family with me. She said she wanted to be my family forever. We were a family too. At these words, Jack's eyes blazed with fire, as if he wanted to devour him alive. Screw your family. Someone. Chop off his privates. What kind of lowlife dares to get my sister pregnant? Tom's face went pale. He tried to call out to me for help, but his mouth was gagged. Then, right in front of my eyes, he was brutally subjected to castration. Jack glanced at him with disgust. Tisk, fitting for a pretty boy. He sneered. Take him away and try out your new method on him. Tom had already fallen unconscious, but he was still dragged away. Half an hour later, his heart-wrenching screams echoed throughout the entire facility. I later learned what kind of new torture method Tom experienced that night. I heard he died from sheer terror. When an assistant came to report, Jack was feeding me porridge. TSK, too easy on him. I should have known not to give him painkillers. I originally planned to torture him for longer. What a coward. Jack nonchalantly ordered his men to bury Tom's body in separate places. Let him be a eunuch in his next life. Jack was seething with hatred. My stomach churned again, and I threw up the porridge I had just eaten. That night, I developed a high fever. In my dream, I saw my deceased parents. They had been kind their entire lives. Why did they give birth to a high IQ monster like Jack? 17 years ago, when I was 3 years old, my parents took us home for the holidays, but we were tricked and brought here. They refused to comply and died bravely, leaving behind 8-year-old Jack and me. From that day on, Jack obeyed those people in order to protect me. He clawed his way up, enduring all kinds of suffering, until he finally gained their trust and was sent overseas to study. As Jack's lifeline, I was kept in their grasp. They weren't at all worried that Jack would turn against them. Amanda, Jack has missed you so much all these years. Have they treated you well? After Jack finished his studies and returned, he found me immediately. He learned that I had been desired by those people and nearly lost my virginity. Jack went completely insane. He began using his ruthlessness and high intelligence to climb the ranks, until he had crushed each of those people beneath his feet. 3 years later, At my coming-of-age ceremony, Jack held me close and softly promised to give me a lifetime of carefree happiness. But I knew that this so-called happy life was built on the backs of innocent people, drinking their blood and eating their flesh. I didn't like this. I was terrified of this. I begged him to take me away. That day, Jack slapped me for the first time. He said the outside world wasn't as good as I imagined. Here, I had education and privilege. Why would I want to leave? That same night, I drank a bottle of poison. Jack was heartbroken. He sped me all the way to the city's largest hospital to have my stomach pumped. He also got into a car accident because of it and was carried away on a stretcher along with me. I was lucky. After having my stomach pumped, I actually survived. So, while Jack was still unconscious, I secretly ran away from the hospital. When Jack woke up, he almost trashed the hospital. The Dr. Smiths couldn't do anything else and had to tell him I had died. Jack didn't believe it because he hadn't seen my body. But because he caused such a scene, it attracted the police, and he had to flee that night. In my dream, I seemed to hear Jack whispering in my ear. He said he had never given up searching for me all these years. Thank goodness, you were sent back to me. But Jack, our sins are too heavy. Tears streamed down my face. A pair of hands gently wiped them away. From today on, you will take good care of her. Jack seemed to be speaking to someone. When I woke up, I learned that he had listened to the Dr. Smith's advice. He had found a professional nanny from outside to cook for me and help me recover. That nanny seemed to have some unknown secrets. She always put something in my soup late at night, then hid in my bathroom to make phone calls. One day, I secretly poured the soup away and finally overheard what she was saying. She said, please assure the organization that she would find a way to complete the mission and rescue the innocent people. I smiled. I knew that I could finally do something to atone. So, I started trying to confide in this woman. At first, she didn't believe me, not until 9 months later, on the day I was about to give birth. I told her I had a way for her to get out with me. If Jack's men came for revenge, she could hold me hostage until help arrived. So, under her gaze, I reached out and heavily punched my own abdomen. When Jack heard I was about to give birth, he quickly dropped everything to be with me. When he heard the Dr. Smith shake his head and say I might be in mortal danger, he gritted his teeth and said he would personally drive me to the hospital. Because of my previous experience running away from the hospital, Jack was extremely vigilant this time. He stayed by my side in the delivery room, watching as they performed surgery on me. Until the baby was born, he held my hand tightly. That's great, Amanda, you're okay. But he didn't notice that the baby was taken away. That night, I cried and made threats to kill myself, demanding to find my baby. Jack had no choice but to mobilize his assistant to question Dr. Smiths everywhere, searching for the baby. Hearing that I was emotionally unstable and might commit suicide, he allowed the nanny to stay with me. As a result, the nanny who was close to me put a knife to my throat. Jack was hesitant to act, afraid of harming me, and ordered all his assistants to retreat because the knife had cut my neck, and blood was flowing freely. It wasn't until police sirens sounded outside that Jack finally relaxed slightly. Amanda, don't be afraid, you'll be all right. The police are here. I smiled, but tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Jack, I've always been afraid. The terrible things you've done have kept me from sleeping soundly, not for a single day. I think, even if we die, we wouldn't have the face to see Mom and Dad, would we? Jack's face turned pale. He allowed them to arrest him. And I, in his final backward glance, snatched the knife and plunged it into my own heart. A female police officer cried out in alarm, no. We're going to rescue those people right away, you haven't even seen it yet. I smiled and shook my head. I wasn't worthy of seeing it, because my own hands were stained with sin. End of story.